Yo, what's up? Welcome to Channel 99. Today I have with us another awesome guest, Mr. Blas Telleria. He's an English teacher at Capital High School. He's also a veteran coach, did 20 years over there. He'll discuss a little bit of that information and some of his background on the show, so you definitely have to listen. We had an awesome show today. It's weird having like one of my old teachers in, but at the same time it's really cool because we mostly saw this cat as an older brother, more or less, than authoritative figure, if that makes any sense. For those of you in school, usually you look at a teacher as somebody who can punish you. This was an individual who we saw as we could kind of tease, and we would accept that punishment because it was in the name of fun, and we knew that he was serious, but he was also not so serious. And I think for the most part, he has been one of the more influential teachers that I've had in my life, and I've had a lot of teachers. So for him to be on the show and to have more of an intimate session one-on-one with me to discuss these topics, such as the evolving curriculum and different parenting styles and the way that things have changed over the years, it was an honor to have him on my show, and I really appreciate the time that he gave me. And I hope you really like the episode because he fucking killed it. So make sure that you subscribe, that you give us 5 stars. Pass this episode along because you know that him and I are going to cheers in the beginning, the middle, and the end because it was such an awesome show. Anyways, we appreciate your time once again and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, dude. Mr. Telleria, Blas, how do I address you?
I've got a lot of friends that call me a lot of worse names in general than my first or my last. But now, call me Blas, man.
Okay, cool. We used to call you Blas in like 7th grade, and you'd always be like, I'm Mr. Telleria, and you always get mad at me and Drew and Dusty and all of us.
It's
a respect thing at that age. You have
back
to.
in the day, it's a respect thing. But once you get out, you can call me Blas.
Well, we always looked at you more as like an older brother, to be honest with you,
I
than like a
appreciate it.
teacher. Yeah, to be honest, you were probably one of the coolest teachers I've had. I had a lot of great teachers growing up, by the way. I think Fairmont Capital, they do a really good job. At least they did when I was growing up, with a good faculty.
Yeah, I think Fairmont, Capital, the whole Boise district, actually. I think we have solid teachers across the board. Obviously, I'm biased about Capital, but
Right.
I've always said that one of the unique things about Capital, there's always there's a teacher for every kid. And so if the counselors are, squaring things away, they can put, all right, this kid will do really well with this teacher, and so on and so. But at the same time, I give total props to Capital kids, kind of salt of the earth kids. There's a little bit of everything, pretty well rounded across the board.
So there's a reason why kids are put into certain classes. It's not just like a random thing.
I think sometimes they say, this kid, he struggles with this and that. He might really relate to Telleria. This kid, Telleria's way too aggressive for this kid. So let's put him in this class.
Mm-hmm.
And so I won't say that there's a strategy behind it, but I think there's wiggle room for counselors to really, focus in on helping a kid out to get a personality that matches.
Yeah, that I never even thought about that, because most teachers are going to have different styles of teaching.
Right.
And what kind of style would you say you have? Are you more of like a visual teacher where you like to do? It's been so long. I remember you use the whiteboard a lot.
Yeah, I think. Well, one, I know I teach English, but I think I teach more philosophy and sociology and life in general, and I just get to use English as my medium.
Gotcha.
And so, for me, I really like a good discussion. I like kids to think for themselves. In today's technological world where everybody's getting told what to think, I like that independent student.
I think that's important, especially nowadays,
Right.
when we're force-fed a lot of the news and a lot of opinions, especially on social media. But that's kind of crazy. And now are you still coaching at Capital?
Nah, 20 years. I coached for 20 years. When you were in junior high, I was track coach, football coach, basketball coach. I was always the basketball coach at Capital, but football and track at Fairmont. But so I was a boys coach for 8 years, and for the last 12, I was the varsity girls coach at Capital.
Nice. Did you guys win state titles? How did that work?
We were always we won a couple district championships, but made a couple runs. But no, we never won a state championship. But we were always competitive, and that was what I appreciated.
Well, I think it's important in athletics, not necessarily about winning. It's about being able to bettered yourself in certain capacities. I don't know. Football all through high school, we didn't win state championship in high school. We made it to the playoffs. I think 2 of the 3 years I was there. We had a really bad year one year. But I mean, I learned a lot, and I think team sports in general teach you a lot, and they translate very well when you leave the school setting.
Yeah.
Especially in the real world, you learn how to work with people, you learn how to communicate on a certain level. And I think coaching is extremely important to be able to impart that on, your athletes, and to be able to leave them with something that's going to benefit them in the long run.
Well,
because dribbling a ball it's not going to get you further in life. You can't put that on your resume.
No, right. No. The only thing you can do is, look like a fool at your kids, your kids' Y ball, trying to show them how to shoot.
Uncle Rico style.
Exactly.
Yeah, back in
exactly.
82.
But no, there's a lot from sports that you can get out of it. And,
totally.
Even just the winning and the losing, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, learn to accept disappointment sometimes, and, learn to appreciate the good moments when they're there.
Exactly. I think nowadays a lot of the kids are conditioned to winning in everything, or having been a part of something, so they deserve to be a winner to a certain extent. And losing teaches you so much about yourself. It teaches you where you're at when it comes to emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
It teaches you where you're at when when reflecting on what was it that I could have been better at, or what did I not, invest my resources in at that time to make sure that I was at the top level of competition.
Yeah, I think kids still are pretty squared away when it comes to the winning, the losing, the putting in the time and the effort and stuff. Parents have changed a little bit, I think, but that's a whole nother story. But no, kids are working hard. They're not as well rounded as they used to be. That a kid, speaking from a guy perspective, they played football, they played basketball, they did, baseball or track in the spring. And now, no, I specialize because I'm going to make it to the league. And no, kid, look at your mom and dad, genetics. You're not making it to the league, kid. No offense. Junior college maybe an NAIA, but you're solid. But no, man, you're not making it to the league.
Right. And I think it's good for them to be passionate about that.
Sure.
But to invest, again, all your resources into one thing that you may not actually really have a shot at, it's good for a coach like you or somebody to say, hey, listen, I understand this is where you want to be, but for me, this is how I would say it to them. I think you're going to develop a skill set that's going to be a little more applicable by doing more sports,
sure,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and it's just healthier for you.
Yeah.
Give your body a break from doing this, and go and do that. But no, there's, if a kid's willing to, if they say to themselves, I really want to be good at this, and, there's some lessons to be learned with dedicating themselves to that. Just like anything, if you dedicate yourself to it, you should have some success with it. You deserve to have some success with it. But, keep it realistic what the end game is too.
Mm-hmm. And there are going to be some failures along the way.
Yeah.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
Did you know that I wanted to be an English teacher? Did I ever tell you that back in the day? Probably. Probably
well,
not.
Well, I probably told you that back
You
in the
probably
day.
told
'Cause
me
I tell
that.
everybody, what do you want to do in life besides be an English teacher? So that joke probably, I said it so many damn times that it probably registered.
No, my whole life I always wanted to be an English teacher. Mostly because I was terrible at English growing up. I went to a Spanish-speaking elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I moved here and I was in 4th grade, I spoke English fluently, but I learned the majority of my curriculum was in Spanish.
Okay.
And so I couldn't really put together like an English sentence very well. I couldn't really write it very well, but I could speak it. And so ever since then, like being treated like I had some type of a disorder, or some incompetence, like incompetency. Is that what you would say? Is that the correct word?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, basically they thought that I was either dyslexic or something like that. And so after that, I was like, no, I got to be really good at English. And I've been like completely weird about English my whole life ever since, like trying to be really good at it. Like when I was texting or messaging you back and forth, I was like, oh man, he's going to like destroy my grammar. Like, is he thinking about this right now?
I kick myself all the time when I send a text or something like that and I'm looking at it and it just bugs me. I see it there and I have to tell myself, man, let it go. Let it go. You're not grading papers right now, man. You're not. This text message is not going to change the future of anybody. Let it go.
It won't. But that OCD kicks in for me too. But I did not pursue that path of teaching, which I think it would have been a really good path. I've been solicited by a couple teachers to come and teach at certain schools and to coach at Timberline, at Bora, because I know some of the coaches and a couple teachers in those places. But no, I just never got into the teaching. I think coaching for me is probably where my teaching lies,
right,
as far as like the time that I have available. But we'll see.
Well, I love both, and don't get me wrong, I coached for 20 years.
Yeah.
But I walked away this year. Actually, this is my first year of just having spare time. But I've really filled in those gaps pretty nicely. I'm enjoying that time off, which for 20 years, you're conditioned. You don't know any different, and so I've been filling it with a lot of really fun stuff. And but my boys, I got 3 boys, and they're like, Dad, you ever gonna coach? You ever gonna coach us? And they say it very hesitantly because they hear my conversations of, oh man, I am loving my time off, and, doing this. So they don't want to throw salt on me for the spare time that I've got, but
at the same time, they probably want to be able to hang out with Dad, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's cool though, and you've been filling it with. You were talking earlier about yoga, which is sweet.
Yeah. And
you bought that 20-day pass, and you've been going 6 days now, yeah?
Yeah, 6 days. I dedicated myself to 21. Now I've got a pass, or I'm giving out a couple passes, so I've got 28 days locked in. So I'm gonna try to go 28 straight days just to see what it. I've never done yoga, so and I'm not very flexible in general, but I know that that's something I need to work on. So. Yeah, I'm committed to it.
You're doing the hot yoga, you said?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
So brutal,
I'm a sweat hog anyway, man. And it's when you're just sitting there and you're just dripping. You're like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing.
Not really though, because everybody else is probably thinking the same thing. But I've never been, and I like you. I'm a sweat hog, man. Like when I'm in regular yoga, my mat is completely drenched by the end.
With this, you can wring it out. Like I don't take the normal yoga towel. I did the very first day, and it didn't even come close to holding my water. You know? So I've got a beach towel now.
Have you done any of the other yoga stuff?
Not yet.
Is it a full access pass that you have? You can do all kinds of yoga there.
Yeah. 20 days for $20, and so it's unlimited. I go twice a day if I wanted. I could do the aerial. I could do the regular. They've got a couple little sessions signed up, but yeah.
And you just wrapped up the trifecta.
Yeah,
I saw that online.
Yeah, running Spartan races. It was probably about a year ago. The girl I was dating, we broke up, and I was kind of contemplating, how in the hell did that happen? Because it happened overnight. And I was kind of just contemplating it all, and I kind of after about a week, I said, life's good. I mean, everything was good, minus breaking up with my girlfriend. But everything was good. But I realized I've kind of complacent. I mean, I've just settled in, and I was just gonna keep following that groove. So for the last year, I've really been trying to mix things up. So I started with the Spartan race. Just did one last year. Just I trained for it. I always have to put myself on a timeline, like a specific number, because one of the reasons I hate just running in general is I don't like going. I'm a treadmill guy because I want to get to A to B. I don't want to go out and just keep running and look at the birds and smell. That's not me. I need an A to B, to get to there. And so so I gave myself 80 days. I'm going to get in shape in 80 days. Every day I'm going to just grind myself down, see what I can do in 80 days, then I'm going to run this Spartan. So that was what I did last year. But this year I committed myself to the 3 Spartans to get the trifecta, the sprint, the super, and the beast. And so the farthest I'd ever personally run up until that point was the Sawtooth Relay, where I ran 2 legs of 6.8 miles and 7.1. And so the super, which was in Ogden at Nordic Valley Ski Resort, it was 8 miles. So that was the farthest I'd ever run, and that was just the super. And then the beast, which was in Seattle, it was 13.5 miles. But yeah, I got the trifecta. Pretty proud of myself on that one.
And that's 13 miles with obstacle stuff, right?
Yeah. So in the Spartan thing, it's the short race, the sprint. It's about 3 to 5 miles. It's pretty easy, with 25 obstacles. Then you have the super, which is roughly 8 to 10 miles ish. With about 30 obstacles. And then you have the beast, which is 13 plus with 30, 35 obstacles. And every time you fail an obstacle, and you think boot camp, that's what the obstacles are. You're climbing ropes, you're climbing up, over walls and going underwater and stuff like that. And the Spartan part of it is you got to throw a spear, and you got to hit this hay bale. Yeah. That's like the killer for people, because if you fail, you have to do 30 burpees off to the side, and then they have these little burpee cops over there telling you, and you're on your own about doing your burpees. Yeah. But they remind you of
it's like an honor system.
Yeah, and they call you out on your honor system. Hey, just remember, remember you're on your honor system for these, and you're like, oh, hell no, So I did that, and now I got my trifecta, and I felt good about it, but I was giving myself a break. But now kicking back in to try to find something to do, because I suppose my Spartan season is over. So rather than just keep running and working out, I decided I was going to give myself 21 days of yoga, and I'm shocked I still get a solid workout from it. So I'm pretty pleased. 1 week in.
It's a totally different workout.
Yeah.
Well, that's an accomplishment on that trifecta. I've never done a Spartan. I've had a couple of people ask if I wanted to do one, and I've never committed to it. But did you have to train pretty hard for it, or were you in pretty good shape already?
I'm just trying to hold on a little bit, Yeah. I mean, I'm trying not to let myself, go to seed. But no, I feel like anybody can do it. I've had a couple buddies. Well, one of the buddies that I ran my very first one with. Well, let me tell you how it all started. We were sitting there watching a football game. This is a bunch of dudes, like Twin Peaks or something. Just being dudes, talking shit. And a Spartan commercial comes on, and one of my buddies was like, "Yeah, I did one of those." And we're like, "Bullshit! You didn't do. We've known you all your life. We don't remember you ever doing one of these." And he's like, "Yeah, I did it when blah blah blah." And we're like, "No, bullshit! You've never done one." And so here's 8 guys, over some hot wings and beer, watching, sports. We decided, that night, absolutely, we're all going to do one. And we got online, found one, set our date. Woke up the next morning, and there was 8 of us. Now 4 were out. Yeah, no, hell no, I don't know what I was thinking. And a couple months later, no, there was only 1 guy left. And I was like, "Yeah, you ready? You ready to do this? You train?" And he's like, "No, man, I didn't do anything." And he almost died on it, he says, if you ask him. But, he grounded out. He walked it, but he did it. Did a lot of burpees, 150, 180 burpees.
Oh, damn. So if you have to do the burpees, do you have to redo the obstacle too?
Nah, you get one shot at it.
Dang. I'll have to try this one time.
It's pretty fun. I'm not going to lie. I don't care for the running part, but in general, all of it, it's pretty fun. I surprised myself with all right, I could do this.
Yeah, it's like a personal challenge.
Yeah.
Totally. I know a lot of people who do it, and there was this one guy at the gym, so proud of himself, and he should be. Like, I see him there grinding it out all the time, and he comes up to the gym after a weekend. He's like, hey, man, I did my first Spartan. He's, like, showing me his, like, thing, and he's, like, walking around the gym showing everybody
With his
his
medal.
Like, his medal. Yeah, and I was like, dude, good for you, man. That's pretty cool. Like,
my goal was to get the trifecta, and I was legitimately having this conversation with myself after I got it, and I was like, all right, you got all 3 medals, you did your trifecta, is this something you really want to, really want to do? Because like you get a cocktail at the end or a beer at the end.
Yeah.
They give you a little ticket for it, and
That's
so
cool.
I'm sitting there, patting myself on the back, feeling good, and I was like, yeah, is this something you want to keep wanting to do? And I was like, I don't know, maybe try something different, maybe do this, and then this little bitty gal walks by me, probably, not even 100 pounds, and she's got the same medal except it's bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, excuse me, I totally got medal envy, total dude in me came out, and I was like, hey, what? This is gonna sound really weird, but why is your medal bigger than mine? Is this a penis envy thing? Is it, why is your medal bigger than mine? She goes, you got to do 2 of them to get this medal. So I think that's going to be my goal for next year. I think she sucked me back in just by walking by with that bigger medal, and
yeah, there's got to be a next step, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, they're just gonna. There's no reason to keep going back.
Right.
For some of those people, and I bet a lot of them they dedicate a portion of their year to just training and
the
hitting 'em.
ones that are contenders for the world championship, and I actually think the world championships was today.
Wow.
And those people, man, they are diehards, and man, they are put together.
They're beasts.
Yes.
Well, that's all they do.
Yeah.
They just run and climb under barbed wire, and
Yeah.
like you do all kinds of stuff. What's the hardest one that they have at the third one? Is that probably the most difficult course they do?
I don't know. If you look at the races that I did, the middle race, which was middle distance. It was by far the hardest race that I've done. In fact, it might have been one of the hardest physical things that I've ever done. My girlfriend and my boys, they were there. My boys ran the kids race, before, and so I was taking so much longer than what my average times were my mile runs, and including burpees or failing some things, and I was so far behind where I was just getting crushed that I would say that middle race, it just destroyed me. I mean, I haven't been beat up like that in a long time, where I was in my own head like, what the hell are you doing? But no, I pulled it off.
There's some other brutal races out there I've seen. I worked on a marketing campaign for, what was it? Irish Spring, I think it was. Yeah.
They've got like the mud runners and stuff like that too. And those are the ones where they shock your ass. Like if you touch, instead of barbed wire, it's electric fence.
Yeah, there's some of them that are super hardcore.
Yeah. And I'm not really into getting
I'm
my
not
ass
into
shocked.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm already running. I just did burpees, right back there. You don't need to shock my ass too.
Yeah. We just worked on the mud run. That's what it was.
Right.
I worked on a marketing thing for Irish Spring, and basically they were setting up. They were doing new body wash, and they wanted to get their product out there, so they set up some showering stations at the mud run for it, and that's completely different. Right? That's just getting super muddy and just water. And
you come out
I've
pretty
never
dirty.
done those. Yeah, I've never done. The only one I've done is color run.
Okay.
But these are obviously way different than Spartans. These are for mom and pops and the kids and strollers and stuff. For me, at least, the stuff I've done.
You're pretty put together. You'd be all right in these Spartan runs.
I think I'd be okay.
You'd be all right.
I think I could hang.
Can you climb a rope?
Yeah, I can climb a rope.
Can you climb monkey bars and monkey bars to ropes to baseballs to monkey bars?
Probably.
Okay.
I think so. I've got a good grip. I do dead hangs.
Okay.
Twice a week, and I usually do 3 sets, a minute, and then 45 seconds, 30 seconds, and I just hang. So
that's my weak link. So those are the ones that if I'm going to fail, that and the spear throw. Everybody, even the pros, they were, they talk about I'm only 85% of the time, do I ever hit that? But that's my weakness is that's my weakness, is the hand strength stuff, and if I'm gonna fail, that's usually where it's at.
Yeah. Is it distance, or do you have to hit a mark?
No, it's distance.
It
You
is
know, so there's an A to B.
Okay, I didn't know that. That was one thing this other guy, the guy at the gym, was talking about. He was like, I don't know how to throw a spear, and he said that he went to the store and he bought like he went to like Lowe's and bought something that kind of emulated a spear. And he's
Probably
like,
just like a rake handle or something like that.
something. Yeah, I can't remember. I was kind of like, I was in the middle of working out, and I didn't know much about the races, so
Sure.
I was like, all right, cool, man. He's like, yeah, I go to the store and I bought this, and I've been throwing it in my backyard. She's got a big yard, I guess. But yeah, he was stressing about that too. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm 75% right now. So out of my 4 races, I'm 3 out of 4. It's an unorthodox throw, but I don't give a damn. It went in. You make fun of me all you want.
Yeah.
Damn, spear's in.
That's what's up. What else do you do for fun? Yoga. Now
So-
you have so much free time. Do you fish? What else do you do?
Yeah, I picked out mountain biking. That's kind of a new thing. I was making my girlfriend. She was like, "You want to go mountain biking?" I was like, "No, I don't want to go mountain biking." This is, probably a year ago or so, and I was like, "But if I am going to go mountain biking, how hard can it be? I mean, I'm a natural athlete. That's
That's what you think,
patting
right?
myself on the back, more than anything."
Right.
And I was like, if the North Enders on their beach cruisers are rolling up bogus, I could totally kill this. She goes, well, let's do it. And I go, well, find me a mountain, find me a ride. And she was like, well, we can go to the reserve. Boise's totally, stacked with the sweet rides around here.
Lots of trails.
So I started talking mad trash, and I was like, listen, I'm not going to have my debut be at like the number 8 hill in Idaho. I mean, where's number 1? That's where we're going. I'm not mountain biking anywhere until I get number 1. And the best ride in Idaho just happens to be at Bogus, or the Around the Mountain ride. And I was like, let's do this. And I go, and then I get there and I'm looking at it, I'm like, damn, my mouth got me in trouble right there. I told her, listen, if at any point in time I have to get off my bike and start walking to get my bike, I'm just going to turn it around and I'm just going to ride down the hill, and I'll catch you at the bar at the bottom, and, have a great ride.
Yeah.
And she was like, no. And it wasn't, maybe 10 minutes in, and I wrecked for I was working my way up the face of, Bogus Basin Ski Lodge, and the lady in front of me stopped, and I was clipped in, and I couldn't unclip fast enough, and I just start rolling down the hill. So my girl thought she lost me right there. Like, oh, hell no. This is day 1, 15 minutes in, and he's already wrecked and bleeding. Yeah. And I'm laughing. I got back up, and I ended up walking. I did. There was a couple spots where I just wasn't in shape to do it. But
dude, riding bike is a completely different type of conditioning.
Yeah.
It is absolutely brutal on your hips and your ass. It's like, especially when you're climbing.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of road biking, but not mountain biking or anything like that. But I have some friends who mountain bike. In fact, one was telling me he just bought like an electric mountain bike where it helps you climb, which that's super cool if you're going to scenic places, but at the same time, where's the challenge in that, right?
Yeah, that's not me, man.
It's like $3,500. It's a nice, sweet bike, but it's like
I've seen them. I've rode a few in Seattle with the Lime bikes, just their little cruisers. They have the electric in, and I was like, all right, let me see what this is about. And so I got on one of the Lime bikes in Seattle and was cruising with and yeah, man, that engine
move.
kicks in, it picks up. You're like, ooh, this is easy.
But you have to ride it to charge it.
Yeah.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
That's the difference between a scooter and, I think there's that's the definition between a scooter and what's the other one? There's the way that you have to title it, if you have to title it. But
no data there.
One you have to pedal, and one you don't, and that's the difference between a scooter and a motorbike.
Yeah.
There you go. That makes sense.
So what have I been doing? I picked that up. I picked up some yoga, and I'm trying my hand at a few other things. I wrote a little kids book that I'm working on finishing. Yeah,
that's cool. What about what? What did you write about?
it goes.
It's like a horror story.
No.
Scary stories for.
Well, that might be my next angle, though. You just planted a seed right there of. Be my next angle.
I write a little bit.
No, I was. It goes back. It goes back to when my first kid was just born, and I was driving down the road, and I went out. An English guy went out and bought like 6 or 7 of the best kids books out there, and I start reading them. And we're driving down the road, and I'm in the back seat. My kid's maybe 1, and I'm reading them to him, and so I'm like, what in the hell is this? This book sucks.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife, she starts laughing at me, and I was like, yeah, this book sucks. In fact, I don't even want my kid ever to read this again. And I rolled the window down and threw it out the window, and she laughed the first time, and then the second time I'm reading, I'm like, yeah, this book sucks too, and rolled down the window, threw it out. Third time she locked the window. The kid, she put the kid locks on me.
Yeah.
So I was throwing books out the window down the freeway. And she goes, if the books suck, well, why don't you write your own? Well, you know what? Hell yeah, maybe I will. Maybe damn right, maybe I will. And so I've been working on that. I wrote one already that was just for fun with a buddy and I. He illustrated it for me. The greatest ABZ book ever written.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's what it's called. And there's only like 1,000 copies out there ever. But
You self-publish?
yeah, we self-published it,
okay.
and we kept 100 copies, 50 for each of us, and we numbered those and gave those to family and friends, and then we put the rest of them out to like Hastings and stuff like that. And so they were mostly local stores, but they're tough to find anymore. So somebody bought them. Somebody's got them in their house somewhere. But it was all, just nonsense words.
Yeah.
Apple schmapple, apple gray. Just
Yeah.
making up stuff. So that was one. Some dad probably threw it out the window and said, what the hell is this? This book doesn't make any sense.
His wife put the child lock on him.
The new one is, so English teacher, I teach American literature. And so we start with creation stories with the Native Americans. And my own boys, they're Native American, part of the Peorian tribe out of Missouri. That's where their reservation is, their home reservation, and so they have res rights and stuff like that. But they're separated from their culture for the most part, and they don't pay too much attention to the Native American culture. So I thought it was important. And since I teach American literature and we talk creation stories, so my book is basically I'm doesn't have a title yet, working on it. Something along the lines of my father's stories, or my father once told me. But it's a creation story of a dad sitting around a campfire looking at the stars, and kid asks, Dad, how was the world made? And it's not biblical. It definitely, but it is. There is. Maybe it is biblical. There is that moment, like we talked about, a little bit earlier. Let there be light, and there was light.
Mm-hmm.
so maybe it does have those moments. But basically, it's about a dad explaining that the animals made the world, and each animal gets its credit for doing its part for building what the world is today. And so still working on it a little bit, but we're damn near there.
Nice. And this book's for what age group?
Definitely elementary.
Right.
Elementary.
And this is something they can read, or something that their parents read to them?
They'll be able to read it.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah,
that's cool,
well,
man.
Their kids will probably depending on the age group, I guess, but.
That's crazy. I would have never guessed, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, you teach English, so you'll probably like to write if you like to read.
It's probably the result of like everything else. It's a dare. I dare you to do that, Spartan. I dare you to do yoga. I dare you to write a kid's book. No, whatever you do, don't dare me. I'll do it.
Yeah, the books I'm writing are a little more sinister than that, but
I like it. Yeah,
but yeah. One of these days, maybe I'll shoot you a rough draft and see what you think.
Absolutely.
I'm more of a novella writer.
Okay.
But one of my stories is probably halfway through, and it's just barely introducing the characters. As far as a novella, like length of words, right?
Sure.
So it'll probably turn into a full novel. But some of my favorite stories that I've ever read, Stephen King, I'll give him a shout out. Some of the best written stories are novellas. They're short.
Yeah.
And
his Richard Bachman books, Stephen King's Richard Bachman books, they were shorter stories that he wanted to do people really like me, or they just like my name? Yeah. So the Richard Bachman books were great stories.
They were great. Yeah. What he did one with Peter Straub. on the Richard Bachman one. It was shoot, man, it's been so long since I've read some books, just because I've been absorbed in trying to grow up. It's important to read a little bit of some, fiction every now and again.
Sure.
I think it's a good time for decompression.
Well, then just to be creative, to let your mind dream a little bit, not get caught up in, reality.
Yeah, I think it's important to have a little bit of some fantasy.
Yeah.
Some people play video games, some people read, some people like manga, like art,
Right.
like different types of comic stuff. With students nowadays, what's like popping? What's the cool thing with kids nowadays that you have to be like, yo, chill out on that?
Well, not reading.
Not reading.
What do I have to read, Telleria? When I can find the audio right here, can I listen to the book?
Yeah.
And graphic novels. Graphic novels are really big. I don't want to say that I think it'd be a disservice to graphic novels to say that it's only kids that have struggle with reading or don't like to read. I think graphic novels are the new comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to do a disservice there. But, I think the biggest struggle that I have right now as a teacher is, kids can read. They can read the words. But they can't read to get inflection. They can't read tone. They can't hear the message. They can't hear sarcasm in reading. And so they need the audio. I think technology has done a disservice to kids where they can read. They can absolutely read words, but they struggle a little bit more to grasp, messages and meanings and
Their comprehension.
just
essentially.
what are they trying to say here?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense, because nowadays a lot of these kids talk with emojis.
Yeah,
Like pictures. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Graphic novels, where they don't even have to read anything. They just create whatever it is. They see what's going on. They get a couple lead-ins
yeah.
when it comes to like a sentence or something. But then the pictures really allow them to, and I get that. It could be a little tantalizing. Like they get to be more creative. They're not set to a structured sentence where this is the story.
Yeah.
They can look at a picture and think, oh, well, maybe it'll look a little more like this. Be a little more, imaginative. But no, that's totally true, and it makes sense. Technology really does deprive you of that creativity with reading. I absolutely love reading a fictional story, especially if that writer is able to translate and to communicate that character in a way that I can relate, and it allows me to just take off and create this whole world.
Yeah.
Like I got completely obsessed, not to jump back on Stephen King, but his Dark Tower series.
Yeah.
I got completely obsessed with. I got the Marvel comics. I got all the books. I read the books 2 times all the way through. I was completely obsessed, and it's because the way he was able to develop those characters, and I was able to create that world in my head. If I had pictures, like, no knock on graphic novels. I've got the Marvel comics, but I've never read through them all the way.
Right.
As obsessed as I got with that series when I was reading it, like some people get obsessed with the Game of Thrones series and they read all the books. It's the same thing. But when I look at the Marvel comic books, it's like, yeah, it's super cool. I have an appreciation for the art. It's like the whole thing is like beautifully done, but at the same time, I don't get a high on that. Like
Right.
that doesn't get me off. Like for me, it's like reading something and allowing somebody to kind of the way that they describe the character and the way that they write, that to me is enticing. And there's certain writers that I cannot stand. Like people will be like, oh, I love this book by this writer, and I'll read it, and I'm like, I just wasted like 3 weeks of my life on 600 pages of a book that I thought was absolutely terrible.
It's a Mark Twain quote that says, "Life's too short to read bad books." And so if I've taken that to heart. Like if I start reading a book and I'm like, yeah, man, this isn't for me, life's too short to read a bad book, so I'm not going to read it. But there's been a couple that There's been a couple that every once in a while they're like, no, you got to get past that page and you got to get to there where I do it. But no, there's something to be said where, graphic novels, I suppose you're still getting someone else's perception of this is what I want you to think. Where when it's just words, like you were just saying, you get to create your own world. And I think kids are struggling with that because they don't want to be wrong. I mean, we become so grade obsessed that the learning is secondary. The grade is the most important part. And so, if you walk out with an A but didn't learn a damn thing, that's okay still sometimes. Where I really think it's a disservice that maybe grades should be a secondary part. It's the learning. You don't want the C doctor operating on you. I got an A but I didn't learn a damn thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
makes sense. And curriculum, you can learn Spanish from a book, but like it's not the exact same as when you apply it in a natural setting. Curriculum based, it's relevant and it works, but it's you're not going to get like a true fundamental understanding outside of what's based in that book and what's been told to you within that book or that curriculum that's given to you. And at that age when you're molding minds, do you get kids who ask questions anymore nowadays, or they just like do what they're told?
The way I teach my class, I tell them on a regular basis that my whole goal is to get you to think for yourself, to ask yourself, what do I believe, and more importantly, why do I believe that? And so every once in a while you get a kid and they think they're rebelling against me, but in all reality, I'm like, yes, hell yes, ask me questions, challenge it. I'm just going through the content here, and if you don't believe what I'm saying, great, prove it. I'll totally change my mind, man. If you can convince me that I'm wrong, I'll totally change my mind, but you got to convince me. Tell me why. And so, we get a couple kids. There's a couple kids every year that eyeball you, and I don't know. I think they think they're being funny, maybe even being a smart ass or something like that. And you and your boys probably fell in that realm back in the day.
We did.
But
I got so many stories of you putting us in timeout, detention.
But I think that's important. I think you can look at it in today's political arena. I think it's more important than ever to think for yourself.
Totally.
Not just be labeled by anything. I'm not talking just Republican, Democrat. I'm talking being labeled by I'm this and I'm that. You should never be anything. You should always be fluid.
Exactly. And you should be fluent in your understanding when you're bringing up your own point of view.
Yeah.
I think that's an issue we have is people, when you do ask them why, they freeze.
Yeah.
They don't know why. A lot of times because that's what they've been told. They don't go out and seek an understanding for themselves.
Yeah. You learn to do you and
Exactly.
be able to defend it. And
Exactly.
I think kids, like I said, are struggling with that a little bit. They're so grade oriented that an independent thought sometimes, well, why do I think that? You mean I get to have my opinion? I don't have to trust my teachers, my parents, my friends? No, you can think for yourself on this one.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, they're at the right age to be able to interpret certain things and to ask questions. They can. You hope that they're able to feel comfortable in your classroom asking you questions if they do have an issue with, I don't know, maybe your point of view. I would assume that for the most part, do you have free reign with the way that you teach? Do they give you like a base curriculum and they say, hey, this is what you should teach on this timeline,
Right.
and then you just teach however you want? You bring in your own your own sources and stuff. How does that work?
Well, the phrase is Common Core.
That's
so
right.
for
Common
a
Core.
lot of subjects in particular, Common Core is rough on a lot of subjects of what they want them to accomplish. From the English perspective, it's beautiful. I mean, it just opened it up, and so you really what materials you can teach now for the English perspective of it all. Yeah, it's great because in the end they have to have key concepts. So you can teach whatever in the hell book you want to read as long as it's approved by the district or whatever. And you can submit books all the time to get them approved. But so with Common Core, as long as you end up teaching the concept, and then at the end they can pass a test, a common core test in a sense of, did these things get covered? And so, yeah, so the classic curriculum, when you went through, we had to teach this during this time, and this during this time, and this during this time.
Very structured.
Yeah, and now with Common Core, you can, for the most part, you just have a much wider range of it, and so it gives you a little more freedom to teach some cool stuff.
That's way cool, because philosophy was one of my favorite classes. So I went through, I've done a lot of college. And I did a summer term. I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to do in college. So I just went, and
Right.
I was fortunate enough to not be in too much debt when I finished. But I did a philosophy class, and my professor was like so deep and like so profound, and like whenever he would bring up a topic, like we had to read all of the, and I forget the name of the philosophy class, it's been 11-12 years now, but when we would read these old philosophical books that he would give us, he would bring up things I was like, how do you even think about that? Like, where does that come from? And it's essentially, it's from expanding your horizons and like opening your point of view to like different types of thinking. And are you able to put a lot of philosophy? Obviously, from what I gather, you do have a lot of philosophical type of teaching methods, yeah? With as far as like making sure kids, they don't just look in a straight line, that they think in angles, and they're able to appreciate different points of view. Because for me, it's, each of us are raised differently. We all have different experiences growing up. We have different points of views because of that, and those shape the way that we perceive situations and the way that we translate them and communicate them. And philosophy in general, I think, is important because it helps you to see it from other angles than just the way that you were brought up and the way that you would translate. Does that make sense? Am I right on that?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. The influence that parents have on their kid in education in general, whether if mom and dad were great in school, there's some random statistic out there that says something to the effect of that 85% of all kids will turn out just like their parents. And, that scares the hell out of a lot of kids.
That's why I don't have kids. Because I don't want any kids like me.
I lucked out. I deserved girls, and I got boys, and, my boys are pretty good boys. I got one I got to put a knot on his head every once in a while, but God, he makes me smile because I'm like, you were definitely mine.
Yeah.
So, but no, I think that one of the things that I try to do, at least to get kids to think about, is that, one, you have more control of your destiny than you think. And I think they think that by timeline wise, I can only worry about my future once I've graduated from high school. And there's, again, I'm just pulling out random ass stats here, but there's another thing out there, another article out there that says that there's the midlife crisis of people in my age group of in the 40s, where we're struggling to find the meaning of what we've got left. We're over the hill and to the back end, but there's a whole nother group that's in your age group that they're 24, 25, and it's a weird point in time in life where the kids that went off to college. They went off to college, and they come back. They have their degree. They kind of have a plan, and they're doing very well for themselves. They can kind of see their future. And then there's the kids that had zero interest in going to college, but they had a plan. I'm gonna be a mechanic. I'm gonna be an artist. I'm gonna be a musician. But they had a plan, and so they started manipulating their direction so that they could fulfill whatever. And they're starting their own businesses. They're moving up in the ranks of where they started, and stuff like that. But there's a huge group out there that are I'm going to take a little time off from school. I don't know what job I'm going to do. I'm just going to do this for a while and make a little money. And then, 4 or 5 years later, when their friends are coming back from college with degrees and they have a career path in front of them, and the friends that didn't go to college but they have their career path in front of them as well, they're doing well. And so there's this huge group of 24, 25-year-olds that are having an early life crisis of what in the hell do I do? I don't know what to do. And so I think one of the things that I try to do is like, listen, good things come to those who wait, but only the things that are left by those who hustle. So get on the hustle. So what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? And you can always change it. You're not set in stone, but at least have a path.
It's not our parents' generation where they worked at the same place their whole lives.
Yeah.
And their parents their whole lives. My dad, he's probably had like two jobs since like his career started, and it's all been, in the medical field. But for the most part, I think they say millennials now in their 20s are going to have 5 jobs on average. And throughout my 20s, I was in school until I was like 24, 23 and a half, 24. Yeah, so I had 4 jobs in my 20s. Yeah, maybe even 5 if you count like a part-time.
Would you say that there were jobs though that you were like, yeah, hell yeah, this might be my career?
Not at all. But those jobs, each one of those jobs taught me certain skills, and I developed a very good skill set from those jobs. Soft skills, how to communicate, how to diffuse situations, de-escalate situations. Taught me a lot. And I think that's important, especially nowadays, just because everything is technologically driven, and you really don't have to go anywhere to talk to people. You can just call them on your phone, or you just message them or get on Facebook and you can see what they're doing. Where before, when I was in high school, like when I was a junior in high school, that's when cell phones started getting popular. I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 16. And I was like one of the first of my friends to have a cell phone. So
cutting edge,
man. A text message would cost us like 10 cents. So I was like, don't text me. I was dating the foreign exchange student at the time, and she was like, oh, you should text me. And I'm like, I can't text you because it's America. We don't text. We talk on the phone. But apparently in Europe, they're all texting at the time.
But don't call me either, because my phone's still stuck to the wall because my dad won't change it out.
Yeah. Even them on those days, back then, and even in the early 2000s, you were still getting phone calls on your parents' line. Mom, get off the phone. I can hear you breathing. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things kids don't understand. They understand that the phone was absolutely hooked to the wall, but they don't understand that there was like 3 or 4 phones and you could pick up any damn line and you could listen in. Your privacy. You didn't have privacy.
No privacy.
No.
My sisters would get on the line and they would like cover it, and I'd be like, I can hear you, because it would be a different sound with somebody on the phone. You could tell somebody was on the line.
A slight muffle to everything.
Yeah, totally. That's funny. Yeah, you grew up in the day when wireless phones hit the market, huh?
Yeah.
Were you guys stoked when you got your first wireless phone?
Oh man,
going to my room, Mom.
I rolled with a beeper for a hot minute, so you could blow me up and let me know that you wanted me to call you.
I'll hit you on collect in 20.
Yeah, and man, you wore it pimp style, so people could see it too. So yeah, I rolled with a beeper for a hot minute.
Was it one of the beepers that was like clear blue plastic so you could see the insides of it?
No, it was straight black.
It's a solid black.
It's thuggish.
There was this girl that I dated, basically mom dates. We would meet up with them at the mall, and she had a beeper, and so I would always call her like 20 minutes after they were supposed to leave. She'd call me from her house phone, and then I'd always call her, and then it would go through on her little pink beeper and you know what's funny? This is the same girl whose dad was the guy who was stoked about the Spartan thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I know, so which would make sense why he'd come up and be so proud.
Right.
Known him a long time. He knows my family and stuff, but yeah, she would always have this like super cool pink beeper, and then I had some friends, but they were like 11, like 10, 11 years old. We were young. It was basically so the mom and dad could like keep track. Beeper, call me on like the closest phone or whatever. But those phased out quick.
Yeah.
Man. Those phased out quick. That was really the only purpose of a beeper, right? Just to let people know that you wanted to contact them?
I don't know. You'd have to probably ask the drug cartels, what they were the most efficient for. But, for the rest of society, I don't know what hey, I'm looking for you. Maybe, I tried to call your home phone, but you weren't there. So maybe just a heads up. Hey, I'm looking for you. But
answering machines. Did you ever do a personalized answering machine back in the day?
Oh, yeah. I think we all did the classic, hello.
Yes.
Hello.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? I'm just messing. I'm not here right now. Go ahead and leave your number at the.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we all did that one. But yeah, I'm sure I can't remember any off the top of my head besides that one because I think everybody and their dog did that.
That's a lost art nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do that on a cell phone,
No,
right? I don't think you can.
No, I know my mom. I still remember the ass chewing that I got from my mom. I sat there and I was cursing you out because you would not, and I knew that you were messing with me, but then I didn't know that you were like messing with me, that you weren't even there to mess with me. Yeah, I got a double ass chewing on that one. The messes that she left, and when I talked to her the next time around.
Dude, that is so funny. Were you like a Metallica guy? Were you all into Metallica? What'd you listen to in high school?
Music in high school.
Yeah.
I out of all my friends,
New Kids on the Block.
I was all over the board. I was totally all over. But I've never seen Metallica, but I got tickets. They're rolling into town, so I've got tickets to check Metallica out. So
they are.
I'm definitely gonna check out Metallica. I feel like that's a band that you just have to see. I collect black T-shirts, or I shouldn't say black T-shirts anymore. I collect concert T-shirts. That's kind of my thing. So my kids down the road, they're gonna have some badass retro shirts to wear to school and stuff like that. But so yeah, I back in the day, my very first three cassette tapes. I had Huey Lewis and the New Sport. I had Leonard Skinner, and I had Black Sabbath, Sold My Soul for Rock and Roll. Those were my very first, those were mine cassette tapes. And I think because those are so random ass, they're all over the board there, that I think that that's kind of dictated my musical tastes. So I'm all over the board with music. I just love music in general, and so. This summer, I've been to a Violent Femmes concert, but I've also been to a Def Leppard concert, and I've been to some blues concerts, Tree Fort, went, and caught as many bands down that I could at Tree Fort, and so, no, I just dig music, and I think I legitimately give credit to Huey Lewis and Leonard Skinner and Black Sabbath for having eclectic music tastes.
That's awesome. My first, I did have tapes, and I would record a lot of the songs off of the radio.
Oh, yeah. If you could hit it right, you had to hit it right from the get-go.
My mixtapes were sick. Like Boys to Men and the Metallica. It was a great mixtape. And then you had to stick the piece of paper in a normal tape to block off the spot so you could record over a real tape.
Yeah.
So because I was too ghetto to go buy blank tapes, I would find old cheap church tapes that had hymns on them or something, and I'd record over them. My 3 CDs, because those were popping back in the early 90s for me when I was growing up. It was Smash by The Offspring.
Okay, yeah.
Dookie by Green Day, and Ace of Base. Yeah. It's a little odd.
Little Ace of Base in the end. You had me with, Offspring, Green Day. I'm like, yeah. And then little Ace of Base.
Yeah. And then I ended up getting the rest of the Green Day stuff. So I got the 1039 Smooth Out Slappy Hours. Got the Kerplunk. And then I quit listening to them after Nimrod after I was 12 because I just wasn't really into Green Day after that. Have you been a Green Day fan? Best concert I've ever been to.
Green Day and the Smashing Pumpkins, they all kind of came through, and I dug them. But the band that when they were hitting, there was a band called Black Happy that was playing in the Northwest area, traveling with some no names bands at the time. One ended up being called Pearl Jam, the other ended up being called Alice in Chains, and we went and caught a concert where the only reason we were there to see Black Happy, and I don't know who this Alice is, Pearl whatever, and we know which one. We know what band lost out on that one, but they just made Black Happy just made a little, I suppose, a reunion tour.
That's cool.
And it was only in Seattle and I think Spokane, Missoula. So I didn't catch it, but no, yeah, my music tastes they're all over the board.
Mine too.
All over the board.
That's good. Do you play any instruments?
No.
My dog's probably better than you at piano then.
I can play Louie Louie on the piano.
Oh, my dog's not Louie Louie material. So.
Yeah, well, that's it though. I mean, chopsticks, I can't do that. But Louie Louie,
do chopsticks.
I can do Louie Louie.
That's funny, man. Well, shoot, dude, we can get you out of here. It's been an hour. Actually, no, let's not get you out of here because you had Pantera. You had that concert I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
That's in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
So you just did that the other week.
No. I did.
When was that?
No, I didn't do Pantera. Just last week I did Def Leppard and Journey. And I'm no rush, man. If you want to keep rolling, we can keep rolling. But if you want to bounce me out, we can do that too.
No, I just didn't know how much time you had this afternoon.
No, man. I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah.
I might make another drink real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's take a 2-second break.
Done.
2-second break. All right, sweet. Well, we're back, everybody, after that intermission that you probably didn't even know you had. So I had a phone call right in the middle of the last recording session, so we're going to re-cheers. So thanks again for coming over to my house,
Cheers.
man.
Thanks for having me.
What we were talking about earlier before we were interrupted was teachers like you, people like you, who have a passion for molding minds for the better. You're the type of people who made such an impact in my life, and I know definitely some of my friends. And you talk about, throughout my life, my mom and my dad, they'll still tell me, oh, well, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so taught me this, this, and this. And that's, you, like, in a role where you're at, you're put in a position where you're able to take almost a blank slate in high school. A lot of the times they do have a little bit more of an understanding of certain things, or they're able to think a little bit differently, but also they're still very immature when it comes to their understanding of certain topics and whatnot. Just because at that age, most of the kids aren't watching news and getting into real world information. Right. They're enveloped in their social lives and how many followers they have and how many likes and shares.
Yeah, thumbs up.
How many thumbs up they got. But when I was growing up, we didn't have that.
Right. What
we had was getting outside, maybe some video games, and I'm not even that old. I'm an older millennial, but.
And I'm a Gen Xer. I'm rolling Gen X.
Yeah, you were born. What year were you born?
74.
74. So you're most definitely Gen X. There's a hybrid generation. They're trying to bridge between Gen X and older millennials, where there's more of a connection than older versus mid and younger millennials.
Sure.
And I don't know if you're familiar with what I do for work, but I do, or I did for a few years, demographic and psychographic profiling. And a lot of the companies that I worked with required me to, the job required me to analyze psychographically the behavioral patterns and purchasing behaviors of millennials versus baby boomers and older millennials and different ethnicities and different races.
So specialized advertising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's very key, very specific advertising. And most people don't know that we, in general, we do think very differently. Like Gen X versus like even older millennials. You're what, 10 years older than me, I guess?
44.
Yeah. Well, I'm born in 85, and you're 74, you said?
Yeah.
So you're a decade older than me. But I think you and I actually have more in common than somebody who's 21 or 22 and myself.
Right.
Because like the younger generation of the millennials, I mean, when I was learning how to be on the internet, it was like you were on for like 30 minutes to an hour and it kicked you off. Or if somebody answered wanted to pick up the phone, you're kicked off. Nowadays, you're wired literally anywhere you go. Any building you go into, you got free Wi-Fi.
Well, and our patience. I mean, we feel like we have, this is bad Wi-Fi. I hit that like 5 seconds ago. When we first got it, you hit enter and you were good for a minute just to sit back, contemplate, think about it as it downloaded the information for you. So it's a patience thing that we had to suffer to get our information.
I had a breakdown today. I was at the gym and I was trying to just log into my account, and it was taking longer than my heart rate. My heart rate was dropping faster than it was loading on my phone. And I was like, I dropped my phone, and I was angry that my phone was taking so long to load a page. And I even thought about that. I've thought about this over the last few months. Like, is it me being impatient, or is there some issue with me and my understanding of time? Like, am I thinking this is taking too long, or is it really taking too long? And that's the breakdown. That's the problem that I've had recently.
Well, I don't even know if it's. I mean, it's tough to judge. I mean, how do you rank one over the other? I mean, we expect in our Wi-Fi society to have answers now, at a snap of fingers, and so. I think it's something that's like anything else. We've been conditioned, I think, to be a little bit more impatient. We've been conditioned to, we just want what we want, and we want it now. Where you look back to our youth like a little bit, you had to be patient. You had to stall out for a little bit just to let the information get to you.
I remember when I first searched Google, it was in the Capitol High School library. It was my friend Deepak Kumar, kid from India. Do you remember Deepak?
Yeah, I remember Deepak Kumar.
Smart kid.
Yeah.
That guy has done exceptionally well in life.
Has he?
Yeah, very well.
Ah,
I
good
love
for him.
Deepak. Yeah. I follow him. He's worked on a bunch of like really big acquisition teams and really cool stuff. He's got an MBA.
I'm going to go to Google to where is Deepak Kumar?
Where is Deepak Kumar? You just search on Facebook, probably quicker. I love Deepak. But anyways, he introduced me to Google.
Okay.
And I remember he told me when I was searching, we hit the library, and he's like, put quotation marks around it, and it's going to go a lot quicker. And I had no idea. I was like, what is this? He's like, a search engine. Sophomore year. So this was 2001. So Google started kind of picking up in what, like 98, 99-ish?
Sure.
Yeah. But when you're my age as a kid, you don't necessarily know what that is. As an adult or like a little bit older, you kind of understand technology or where it's at that point. As a kid, you're kind of just learning about it, I guess, because it's not part of your like work, But what I found out about Google, it literally looks the same now today as it did back in the day, but that completely changed my life.
Well,
like
your Google moment is my email moment. I had the same thing with the email moment. Like, wait a minute.
Somebody can send you I don't have to put a stamp on this?
They gave me a slip of paper that said, this is your email. And I was like, what the hell does that mean, your email? And so one of my engineering buddies in college, he was like, yeah, come here, let me show you. And so we sat across at the computer lab, and he was like, yeah, this is you, type it in. And I'm going to go on the other side. And he was looking at me like we're looking at each other right now. And I was like, all right. He sent he goes, type a message in. And we're
You're
talking
killing
black screen. We're talking black screen, green letters. I mean, and I was like, hi. And he was like, yeah, hi. and I said it out loud too. That was the thing that I remember. I was like, I typed it, hi. And I hit enter, and he was like, yeah, 1, I see it, and 2, I hear it. Just so you know. So yeah. So your Google moment was my internet moment.
Your email moment.
Yeah.
That is hilarious, man. So when you first jumped on the internet, what were kind of like, what were the cool things? What were the cool things? Chat rooms? Or like, what would you do on the internet?
Man, look up old girlfriends, you know? I mean, isn't that what we all do? You know?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what you did with Google, I'm sure of it. You know,
Probably.
No. It was, you know, information. Just, you know, I was in college at the time, so they were saying, this is what you can do to communicate with people and stuff like that. And we're like, what? Communicate with people? Like, no, I'll call them. I'll go to their office. And they're like, no, you don't have to do that anymore. And so it was pretty interesting. I mean, and I think it hit me at the right time because I was in college, and so, you know, if you're going to learn something, and if it's not in high school, it might as well be in college. So I mean, it was a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely
to
better.
learn something.
Yeah, that's better than my college experience. My college experience, I graduated in the fall of 2009. After going to school forever, racking up credits on credits.
Well-rounded.
Yeah, very well rounded. But we didn't have. There was no hope. It was during the recession, man. Like I want to say they told us there was like 30% of the people getting out of college got a job in what they studied and what they wanted to get a job in, and of those people it was very minimal that, you know, we would even get a job. They're like, let's be real. Fortunately, I had a school that was like, let's be real, like, this is the economy right now, so this is how you got to differentiate. Yeah, you have to differentiate yourself somehow from the competition, because in the real world it doesn't matter if you get a 4.0.
Right.
It doesn't fucking matter. You know, I did exceptional in my grad school. I got a 3.9 in grad school. Nobody fucking cares.
Right.
You know, if I were to apply for a job, I would never put that on there. Why? Because if somebody got a 4.0, I'm fucked. Even though if I got a 3.9, like, you don't put that on there, right? So it doesn't matter. What matters is what you learned and how you apply.
Who you know, how you can sell yourself.
Yes.
You know, your great point. I can't think of too many applications that I threw down my GPA. Yeah. And hell, if I did, you know, I'm gonna lie. I had a 4.3.
Yeah. And some require it, some do. But I was always told, even in school, they were like, don't put your GPA down. Unless you have like literally a flawless GPA, there might be somebody better than you. And that doesn't mean that they're better than you in life. They're just better than you at the school that they went
taking
to.
Tests, getting grades, writing essays. Sure,
yeah, exactly. Sure. And that's another thing I try to tell people with, you know, the mentors that I have, especially the ones who want to go to grad school and they want to get their master's and whatever it is. For the most part, these are people who want to get their master's in business, because they know that that's the path that I took, and I am forever grateful that I took that path. It was probably one of the best things I've done. But again, I love education. I love learning, and I think that's what life is about, is getting the most out of it, learning everything, asking questions, things like that, it like we talked about.
Ties in something from earlier, is that, you know, like right now, GPAs, in the end, your GPA doesn't matter. In the end, it's what did you learn? Yeah. What was the relevance of it all? And I get it. You have to have a good GPA to get into a good college because they're screening people to get the best of the best. I get the game, but the long game is that, it's what you learn and what you take away from it and how well-rounded are you. You look at the Harvards, the Yales, everybody that applies to Harvard and Yale, they all have 4 points. They all did well on the SAT, ACT, whatever test they have to take. But who are you as a person? And so that's where, you know, admissions and stuff has changed. And so I think, of course you want to get good grades. Of course you want to do well. But I think there's what did you take away from it that is personally going to stick with you, that you can, go through life
How
and
can
say,
you apply that?
yeah,
Like what is the actual relevance
right.
of what you've learned?
And relevance is a huge issue in education because you can Google it all. Why do I need to know this? So students, why do I need to know this? I can Google it.
That's a question I did have too. Like, how do you handle that in your classroom? Like, what is like the protocol? Nowadays, there's so many phones. I used to in college, before I graduated, we would ask Google. We would literally text Google, and we would say, "What is this? What is that?" And it would text us. It would text me back, and it would give me the answer, or it'd say these might be the answers to it, or whatever. Before they had like navigation, it was the same thing. You would text Google directions from this address to this address, and you'd get like 20 text messages that would give you step-by-step directions to get that place.
Yeah.
Where nowadays you have navigation and it just talks to you, tells you. Homer Simpson voice to like the Australian hot chick.
The Australian hot chick rules our house. Alexa has an accent.
Problem with Alexa is she sounds like she's 50 years old and dried up.
Yeah. Well, Alexa, you got to ask her the right questions, I suppose, and you get the right answers.
That's true. You should ask her about conspiracy theories.
I will.
She will. She'll shut up. Because Amazon knows.
But no, the technologies has changed education. It's changed the relevance of education for students, and I think myself,
the application, like how you educate kids, I guess.
Yeah, a couple years back, I think I went through kind of a phase of, okay, why am I teaching what the students are finding the relevance to this? What's relevant and why is it relevant? And if it's legit, then okay, figure out a way to make it relevant. And why do you need to know history? Why do you need to know science? Why do you need to know math? And I think that's a teacher's responsibility. If they haven't asked themselves that question in a little bit, then they need to ask themselves that question. Why is this relevant? So students don't Google it. I've got a teacher that has a poster on her door that says, "Respect your parents. They graduated high school without Google." And so there's a lot of connections that are being lost, but I think it's education's responsibility to
ground people,
and create the why. This is why, not just because I said reality. So, because nobody said do this. Why? Because I told you so. Because I'm,
but
they didn't.
Why?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you need to ask why. And that's how I was raised.
Right.
My dad and my mom are always like, if you don't know, just ask them why. Just ask them. And if they don't have an answer, just keep asking them until they have an answer. And then,
Socratic method.
Yeah,
you
just have to ask them. Like, if you don't know, just ask them. And that's one of the biggest things that I appreciate my parents for was they always told me, question authority. Don't be disrespectful, but question them because you have no idea, and so many people, they take authority for granted, and they want to hear an authoritative voice, and they want to be told what to do, when to do it, how to do it. That's something I learned in my customer service years, working all over the phones. People don't necessarily care, even if I wasn't a manager.
Right.
I would step on the phone and pretend I was a manager, and it was that authoritative voice, that confidence that really, settled people and de-escalated the situation. But when I was raised, my parents were like, hey, ask why. If you don't understand, ask questions. I was always the kid who sat in the front of the class. I would ask questions. I loved it. But I was also really bad. I was like a class clown, but I had fun and I knew what I could and couldn't get away with, and I think that was another good thing for me.
And I'm sure that if a teacher draws the line, then this is where it is.
Totally, and I did have a respect for authority because my dad was, he retired lieutenant colonel in the military, so in the Army. So I definitely was raised in a household where I know where to draw the line. And but it's true, when you look back on curriculum, and people are like, I'm never going to use algebra. Fuck no, you're never going to use algebra. I'm never going to use this. I'm never going to use like a cash balance sheet. No, you're not. You're not. Because this is all automated. Everything's input into a computer, and it all is kicked out for you to a final, like whatever it might be. It finalizes it for you on a computer. It's not what you learn, it's how you learn it.
Right.
And that's what creates a well-rounded individual. It allows you to think differently. It puts you in an uncomfortable position to force you to think in angles, to solve a complex problem like without a complex solution.
Right.
That's something that I try to tell people that I mentor who are going to school. They're like, I'm never going to use this. No, fuck no. You're never going to use it. You know what I do for work? No, it's all in a computer, and there's a macro built into it that I wrote. It took, 2 hours, 3 hours.
But somebody
to
wrote
put
it.
everything.
Somebody knew that
figured
math and had that down and wrote that.
Exactly. But you'll never have to. But that's something you're never going to learn unless you're in a very specialized, like coding, right?
Right.
And in that case, it should be something very, very easy because I did coding for a few years in college. I was a computer science major for 3 years, but it's something that the macros that you write in like Visual Basic are very elementary to the majority of other things. Anybody can Google VB code.
Well, you're speaking Greek already to me. I'm an English guy. I'm old school, paper and words.
Automated.
Right.
Everything's automated. And that's what I try to tell people. It's like, if you want to go back to school, do it. Because A, it looks good on your resume, and higher learning to me forces you to think and apply things differently than what you're used to. It's textbook curriculum is completely different than actual application of theories, and being able to come back with your experience and being able to communicate that and put it into some type of a lesson for others to learn from.
Yeah.
And
relevance. And that's what it comes back down to, is it's all about relevance. Why? And I think students in general, they'll respond if you can give them the why. Why are we studying this? Because this is what our goal is in the end. This is what I'm shooting for you to walk away from. And I think relevance just plays that such an important role especially in the technological world where, I don't know what you're a millennial, I'm a Gen Xer, and this information group, I don't know what this information generation, I don't know what we're going to call them, we'll know in 5 or 10 years from now what we call them, but because they have all the information at their fingertips, it's a legitimate question. Why do I have to know this? I can Google it. And so it really is a struggle for teachers to try to establish that. And again, it's so important for teachers to come right out and shoot them straight. This is why, and this is when you know it. Will you ever use algebra again? I don't know. I don't know if as an English, you might,
but you're probably not going to have to break it down on a piece of paper step by step.
I'm proud as hell of myself. I even put it all out on social media that this summer I had to take a class to keep my master's fresh, and it was a math class, K through 3, how they're teaching, because they're teaching math not different nowadays. I don't know if you know that. I mean,
no.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen some of the core math stuff. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. What is this?
Yes, and so
this is Greeks.
Yes, and so I took this math class because, everybody with a master's degree or administrative degree, they have to take this math class because that's how they're teaching math nowadays. And so I took it. It was K through 3. Yeah, I'm an English guy, so I'm going to go as basic as I can. But it still blew my mind. And I was like, well, what's the relevance? Why are we doing it? And this is why, and this is why. And I was like, damn, okay, this is for real. And there was even a subtraction formula that they showed me. And they're like, yeah, you can do subtraction this way. I'm like, no, bullshit. You cannot. There's no way that you can subtract math this way and still have it come out of the answer. And I sat there for legitimately, now I ignored the rest of the class, and I subtracted numbers for an hour. So then when it came to algebra, I was like, No, hell no. Let's see. I don't need you to tell me how to do algebra.
Yeah.
And I was so damn proud of myself. I think my math, my junior high or high school math, Miss Shu, I think that was I think that Miss Shu was my junior high math teacher. It taught me algebra. Anyway, she'd be proud as hell because I broke out some algebra and I ripped it out and I put it out on social media. I got the math wrong in the end, what it was, but I was like, but damn right, I was there. I was there. So yeah, it's just it's like working out, keeping yourself physical.
Yeah.
It's for your brain, just in general.
So there's a requirement for teacher. Do you have to you have to retest so many years to say certified? Is that how it works?
Yeah, every couple of years you got to recertify to keep your credentials. So basically, you have to continue your education. Teachers,
Gotcha.
so teachers don't just get to call it a day. You have to go out. You have to get more classes. So this year, I took 2 classes to get my cert. Part of my credits were that math class, just to figure it all out, to how they're teaching my kids how to do math. And then the other cert was how administrators are evaluating, so I can judge how I'm getting evaluated. Whoa! You're not supposed to be evaluating mommy this. I got dogged on this last year, and now you're ringing me up for this and bullshit. You're not supposed to be judging me on this.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool class too. So both of them, I actually feel really satisfied with my continuing education for these 6 credits that I just took over the summer just to keep my job and recert with the state.
Well, that's super important, though. And I think that's honorable for the school system to kind of force you to take a class to know why you're being graded.
Yeah.
Because for most employers, mine, for instance, I don't know how I'm getting graded. To be honest with you, I haven't even met with my boss since I got my boss. And I met once, but I mean, I'm the only one in the office that is underneath him on the grand scale of things. So I have no idea how I'm graded. I don't know if I get a pay increase. I don't know what's going on with my job. All I know is my client's happy and I'm getting paid on Friday. Right?
Yeah, what's the criteria? What's my judgment?
What am I being graded? I guess I'm being graded on the fact whether or not my client has to reach out to my boss. If that's the case, then chances are I don't have a job.
Well, then you just got to filter, to make sure that it never reaches the top.
Exactly. Well, it's easy. For me, it's easy to de-escalate things just because, I've got experience in that. But
Sure.
As a teacher, how have you noticed, because you were obviously a lot younger, when you were teaching 7th grade, when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah, 23.
You were 23. Wow, 21 years you said, right?
Yeah.
So over that time frame, how have you noticed parents, the type of parenting or patterns? It's hard for me to ask the question because how's parenting changed?
Yeah. It certainly and absolutely has changed. For the positive, I'll say that, technology has put it on like grades. As soon as I punch in a grade, a parent knows 5 seconds later what grade went into the book, so parents can.
It's all digital now.
It's all digital. So my grade book isn't. I do not have a grade book where I write numbers down into it or anything. I put it on the computer, and bam, parents see their kids' grades. So this assignment missing, absent this day. Redo the assignment. The assignment sucked. You scored a poor score here. You got to redo this, and so you can put all of that. You can message it, and so the kid can see the grade 5 seconds afterward. The parent can see the grade 5 seconds afterward. So the grade book has changed. So the parents are in the loop. So that part is the positive side of it. The negative side, I'd have to say that it used to change. That if a teacher called home if my teacher threatened me, I'm going to call home. I was like, no, hell no. Tell me what you want me to do. What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
And just don't call home.
I got a lot of those growing up.
Yeah. And so nowadays, though, you call home and, parents, you want to think that they're going to be on your side when you call, but it's a 50-50 shot when you call home that they're going to support you as the teacher instead of, no, why do you hate my kid? My kid already talked to me, and, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of times parents are siding with the kid. And you know how, as a teenage kid, you try to manipulate everything. And if your parents are divorced, you try to manipulate mom versus dad. Mom said this. Well, dad said this. And, you got them going against each other, and you get the best of both worlds. Well, it's the same thing with teaching sometimes right now, where parents, well, this teacher, he just really does not like me. And, Mr. Telleria, he said he was going to flunk me. And did I say that? I said, well, technically, let's say that I wanted to flunk you. I couldn't. If you did all your work and did everything that you wanted, it wouldn't matter what I wanted. I couldn't flunk you if I wanted to. So you got to go out on a limb to really get there. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, parents, they side with the kid more than they side with the parent now, and it's a little demoralizing sometimes. And I went to high school, and this is because I was there, I know. You're not the expert anymore because I was there, so I have experience in it.
Yeah.
So,
have you dealt with any former students? I guess it's my age group. I'm literally the oldest kid that would have ever been taught by you. So I'm trying to think if any of my friends, they don't. I don't think. Have you run into any kids whose parents you've taught? I don't think so.
I don't think.
So I'm trying to think of all the kids from Fairmont, and I think there was the youngest kid I can think of had a child when we were sophomores.
Well, then the ninth grade health teacher needed to do a little bit better job of how that happened.
Calling you out. Who was that? Who was that?
I don't know. I'm messing. We probably couldn't. That was during a time where you probably couldn't talk. Sex ed. There was a huge in that early. Well, I guess late 90s, early 2000s, there was a huge push of what you could and couldn't teach about sex ed. So,
really?
Yeah. So,
like what?
Like the basics of it all. I mean, they just, I think.
I remember.
I don't quite remember the details of it, but I remember it was a huge deal in Meridian about, what you could and you couldn't teach about the birds and the bees, and you couldn't even talk about the birds and the bees in general.
Wow, that's crazy.
If, anybody listening, birds and bees, they don't really do it. So you really go ask mom. You're probably all older, so you already passed that answer.
I've never understood that that analogy.
Yeah.
The whole, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
I
don't either.
I never got that. That's
But-
weird. What about? Oh man, what was the other question I had lined up for you? It was the
Talking about medication, was that right?
Oh,
Yeah.
that was the other one. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, dude. So
No,
it was
no,
the
that's all right.
medication. So I've noticed growing up, I didn't have any friends that were on medication. There was
Right.
one, and that kid kind of, he's still in the position in life where it looks like he'd been medicated his whole life. So with kids nowadays and technology and everything that's in the classroom, do you see an uptick in medicated kids who are all on Adderall? Do you notice a difference
Well,
in their engagement?
There's I don't know how to, I don't even know how to phrase this, but this side of it. Education is such a unique occupation, I suppose, or position or platform. I really don't know where to go with it. But we do take on a lot of the role of the parenting side of things. Parents expect kids or teachers and schools to teach their kids this. And so I preface that because education has changed with IEPs and 504s, and we have students that have issues, and I get their information every year, and I get repeated. This is a reminder for this student. If they're struggling with this, to make sure that we do this. And then we have students that are legitimately, new to America, as their families refugees, and we get paperwork onto that. So there's paperwork on almost every kid now, and so as far as the medication side of it all. We have a school nurse. She handles a lot of that. I'm sure most of the school nurses they do that. Who's on what? I've got the paperwork for all of that, and of course I go through and I look at it, and if there's something significant, I make a legit note of that. But for all my students, I make sure that I'm covered on. I've got this, and this, and so schools have changed, and I think a lot of schools are CYA. I think a lot of laws for the state are that way as well. But education has just changed because, and I won't say technology in this case, it's pharmaceutically as well. I know that I was never diagnosed ADD, but there's no doubt in my mind that I'm ADD. Mm-hmm. The drug that I got was me literally drug out behind the woodshed. That was the drug that I got. And
yeah.
You keep talking, keep not listening. You're going to get a little bit of wood.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called being a kid.
Yeah.
I think we overdiagnose.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
What's the most prominent medication that you note down?
I don't even pay attention to the actual medications that they're on. No. I pay attention more to their condition, and it's the nurse's job or the parent's job, or
just their behavior in the classroom.
Yeah,
you just kind of have to adapt a little bit.
Yeah.
What's the most erratic thing you've had to deal with in a classroom before? Have you had somebody try to fight you and stuff?
Oh yeah. I mean, the stories alone. There's some novels that could be written and you could go a 1,000 different I can't even. There's some great stories that I would love to tell you, because they crack my ass up. Every time I think of them, I'm like start laughing. I was like, did that really happen? Did that really go down in my class? And I'm sure that every teacher has that story where. They'll never forget that student for that moment and that reason for that whatever.
Do you have favorite students?
Favorite students? Yeah, and absolutely. But I will say it's the other way around. It's the student that isn't an ass. Mm-hmm. So do I have favorite students of a class of 30? Yeah, I've got 29 favorite students. The one that's not being an ass right now that's causing me grief.
Good answer.
Listen, you're here to learn. I'm here to do my job. I want to help you help yourself, but you won't even let me help you because you're being an ass. Why, step outside for a second. Go get a drink. Go to the bathroom.
Take a breather.
Yeah, do what you need to do because you're killing me. You're ruining my mojo.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
I remember back when I was in student council, they didn't put on the Coke machines. They didn't put the little protector things on the inside, and I was super skinny back in high school.
Long arms.
I would just put my arm right up in there, and I would snag sodas for us every day at student council. And then one day, they fixed it. I think it was senior year, like my senior year, they fixed it, and I couldn't get free sodas anymore. But hey, man, if you're not gonna prevent that, that's not my fault. I'm not stealing. I'm just borrowing at that point.
Ironically, when they did that to the candy machines, I got my arm stuck. I couldn't have been 7 or 8, and they busted my ass where. My arm was stuck in the machine. I was crying. And my dad was playing basketball, some city rec thing, that I was there, and they walk in and. There I am. I'm just balling my hand stuck in the candy machine. And the beauty of it was a bag of peanut M&Ms just like right there that I couldn't hold on to. But I was crying and looking at the peanut M&Ms. And, dumb kids.
Freaking peanut M&Ms, man.
Peanut M&Ms. I got busted at the candy machine.
That's funny. I never got busted. But I definitely borrowed a lot of sodas from the Capitol High School machines. That's for sure. Yeah, what's going on nowadays? How do they do student council in school? The same way, ASB, and then they have the class reps, or is it like completely different? Do they not do it?
They have a whole class for it now where it's your class and you go to it, and with social media it's really cool. They do a lot of really cool things. They're a lot more involved. They keep everybody up to date on just about anything, not just sports or big drama things, but they keep everybody in the loop about everything that's going on. And all you got to do is just like Instagram, Capital's Instagram, bam, you're on. Capital's Facebook, bam. That's for the older people, though.
Yeah, I have Capital's Facebook. Yeah, I'm on there.
Yeah, that's for older. For that's not for the hips. I don't know if Capital's got a Snapchat. I don't know what kind of.
They might.
What kind of pictures they're trying to ditch? 30 seconds later.
Yeah, when I was in student council, we had a class, and it was an elective at that time. But I got kicked off student council, so I said a bad speech.
You were probably wronged.
Yeah. Well, I was rerunning senior year, and I rewrote the Gettysburg Address, and it was the Gettysburg Address.
Oh, okay.
And I changed it. They didn't like that. Said you can't change your speech.
Not Honest Abe.
Yeah,
not honest
definitely
Abe.
not Honest Abe. But it was pretty cool. I read it all. I wrote it all like G'd up from the feet up, super like thug. You were probably there. You probably watched it.
I probably liked it.
They were not happy.
I probably was like, I can't believe he did that. But inside, I was like, yeah, that was pretty dope. He was pretty smooth right there.
Yeah.
From an English teacher perspective, I feel like that was clever. That was clever, and you guys are destroying his creativity.
Gettysburg Address. And then I tried to come back at them. They were like, well, you can't change your stuff. And I was like, but so-and-so, I won't say who he was, but I was like, so-and-so sang his, and you can't sing yours either, so that doesn't make any sense. But looking back on it, I probably should not have said what I said, some of it. But hey, people liked it, and they laughed.
Hindsight, 2020.
Yeah. Things to impart onto people who want to run for a class office. Are your students going to be listening to this, by the way? This is rated PG-13.
I feel like we've been fairly clean through it.
I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I'll totally plug it.
You should plug it.
Yeah.
They'll be super stoked. Oh my God, is there like famous on a podcast?
Well, I told them that I was doing the sports broadcaster thing, and it was because specifically that this is something that I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? Because I was doing that sports broadcasting thing, one of my former students who does podcasts, he reached out and says, let me get you in studio.
Yeah.
So I feel like I prefaced it. I feel like I got to give him an open shot at it.
Yeah, you got to give them a follow-up. They'll like it.
Yeah.
I think they'll like my podcast for the most part, and I hope that they listen to the rest of them because it'll open their minds.
Yeah, right?
Super
blow their
geeky
minds.
Stuff, yeah. Did you listen to the conspiracy theory one the other week?
I have not.
Oh, dude.
Is that the one I need to go back to?
Oh, yeah. So I've got this guy. He's the screamer for the band We Were Giants.
Okay.
And I had him on the studio. His mom is like got a PhD in like some like psychiatry,
something heavy duty,
super heavy duty. He came in and we talked about like shadow people, multi-dimensions. This dude gave me this dude dropped knowledge on me, and I was like, whoa. Like just conspiracy theories, like a little bit about what we were talking about off mic with the Alex Jones and the Joe Rogan podcast and stuff like that.
Sure.
Just like the way that like certain parties will communicate the same thing in completely different ways, but it's the exact same interpretation. It's super interesting fellow. But yeah, long story short, this band is kind of connected to like a larger network of like the music industry, and like the music industry, there's conspiracy with the music industry with a lot of different types of things, like the rap industry with like getting the inner cities, like the rap music and inner city communities supporting like basically like dealing drugs and prostitution and all the stuff that's related to that type of music.
Suge Knight
stuff. Yeah, totally, right? And then but there's like the metal scene and like the rock scene where you have like Tom DeLonge, and these are a lot of the guys who are like anti-authority, and they're like UFO conspiracists and stuff like that. Well, a lot of their music kind of follows that line of like anti-government, like you're not telling us, you're not shedding light on certain things, conspiracy theory stuff.
That's where Rage Against the Machine came in for me. Where like they were the first ones to, start touting it, and I was like, wow, they're being bold. Like I kind of like them. So these bands are kind of following suit in the same sense.
Yeah, totally. In a little bit differently, but at the same time, like different style, but very similar as far as their take on the topics. Yeah. So, but this guy came in super interesting topics, but he will definitely get your brain.
All right.
He'll tickle your brain a little bit. Yeah, totally. But we're definitely gonna have to get you back on multiple podcasts.
Hey,
dude.
whenever,
you're
man.
gonna have to come on.
Yeah, this is fun. I had a great time.
This is so much fun, dude. This is a blast, man. It's always good to have like people come in. I can learn from them, and like especially somebody like you who's been a mentor in my life. Like when I think back on some of the like best teachers, some of the funnest experiences that I had, like the best memories I had. I remember like 7th or 8th grade, you made Drew and I like wipe off all the tables in junior high, or you're like, we're gonna send you to detention. So we're like, so we're sitting there because we would always go like blast Telleria back in the day. We'd always sing that to you, and you'd always be like, get out of here. You'd always get mad at us, right?
Yeah, well, now I take it. I was like, yeah, that's right. Do it myself. That's how I introduce myself now. I've stolen your material. That's what I was mad about. That I wasn't mad that you were saying it. I was mad that I didn't think of it. So as soon as you guys graduated, I've been using that shit all the way through.
But yeah, man, it's super cool to have you on. I bet literally every one of my friends is gonna listen to this show and be so stoked that you came over, man.
Oh, that's cool. Well, thanks for having me. And
yeah.
I'm totally down if you ever want to have me back, man.
Dude, there's too many more topics, and there's like 5 off the top of my head, but I've got to prep for other people to come in, and I don't want to take up the rest of your afternoon. You've been here, shoot, man, we're going on 2 hours of podcasting. You've been here for a few hours on top of that.
That's all right. It's been great conversation.
It's fucking awesome, man. I appreciate it. Everybody listening in, make sure that you subscribe, that you give us 5 stars, pass the episode along. Is there any social media that you want to hand out, or any shout outs that you want to give?
Man, I could go a lot of places. I'll go a lot of places, but no, I'll prep next time to really put some legit plugs in, because see, right now it's classics. I'm going back to my own teacher, Pat Bronner, who taught me economics, supply demand. So knowing that maybe you'll invite me back, that'll increase demand. So supply, I'm going to go ahead and say, listen, I'll plug you next time I'm on doing my plug, but it's going to cost you. So I'm going to get a couple beers out of this. So no, I'm going to leave it. Listen, there's potential.
Lots of potential.
but I'm not going to do it, because then, they'll pay me to do it the next time.
Well, you're going to be a repeat, and I'll get you back on. We'll do a round table with you. We'll get a couple other guys in here, some other broadcasts.
I want to be
we didn't even talk about your broadcasting.
I want to be in the party pod. But.
You should party cast. We didn't even talk about your broadcasting. God damn it.
Yeah, no, it's a new gig. Just, sports broadcasting, just something for fun. Just doing, broadcasting the football games for, Capitol High School. That's a new thing. They got high def cams. It's pretty legit.
And they're at the new stadium downtown, right?
Yeah, that sucks.
Does it?
Yeah, that sucks. The district did the district themselves wrong by, if you go to any of the other games in the other, Mountain View or Rocky or, Centennial or Eagle, any of them, for the most part, minus Boise, they got sweet stands with a sweet crowd, and that's just my opinion, but we did ourselves wrong.
Well, that's another topic. We'll get back on.
I got a great seat. I'm the announcer, so
yeah, you're set.
Yeah, I've got a great seat.
You're totally set.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get you back on after you do some. Have you done some games already?
We've got a couple in the books, but
oh gosh, dang it! How are they doing this year?
They're all right. It's what we do. Capitol High has dominated the city of Boise. This is a legitimate statistic. It's actually impressive. They're 47-1 in the last 17 years against Boise, Bora, Timberline, and Bishop Kelly, I think. Whoa. They're 47-1 in the last 17 years, or something like that. 47-1's accurate. 17 years, I'm not quite sure on that math, but
I wouldn't doubt it though.
Yeah, they've just absolutely dominated, and so yeah, they're just keep doing what they do.
Yeah, until they get to state and fucking choke, dude.
Well,
a Capital High School, man. Don't get me started, man. I've had two brothers under me. I've had two brothers under me that have been on amazing teams that should have been state championship winning teams.
But it's why you got to play the game.
That's why you play the game, man.
That's why you play the game.
That's why you play the game. All right, dude. We'll get you back on. We'll catch up more so on the announcer stuff and the broadcasting stuff. We'll get more people on. We'll geek out.
Yeah.
And again, everybody, subscribe, review, love, pass on, and thanks again for tuning in. And have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah.